You're listening to Popcorn and Politics. What's the real deal? Hosted by Audrey Bell Kearney and Derek J. Wilson. Asking the hard-hitting questions you want answers to. From political leaders and political hopefuls from around the world.
Hold on, there I go. Woo, let me tell you something. Stuff always go wrong. It's so crazy because y'all know I love doing podcasting, right? But when I tell you sometimes things just don't go right, things just don't go right. We had a great guest coming on. Hopefully we can still get him on, but somewhere along the line, I dropped the ball maybe because I thought he was confirmed. And I don't know, people send stuff to me on Facebook. I don't look at Facebook like that. But anyway, it's a great day here in Gwinnett County. Looking forward to talking about politics today. My co-host Derek J. Wilson will be joining me in a few minutes. Listen, y'all know Trump was at Truist Stadium this past weekend with the tomahawk, doing the tomahawk chop for the Braves for the World Series. And there were a lot of people who was like, "Oh my God!" I remember being in a meeting on I think it was Friday, and someone was saying how they was like Trump is gonna be at Truist, and they was like, "What?" Like at Truist, and they was like, "Yeah." So I was like, so it was like they want to throw up kind of thing. But that's so crazy. Listen, people still love Trump, despite all the stuff that went down. People still love Trump, and sometimes you love who you love, right? You love who you love. But anyway, I'm gonna bring in my co-host Derek J. Wilson. I don't even know if you got a chance to listen to the intro. Did you hear the intro?
No, I didn't. I mean, you updated.
You didn't hear the intro? See?
No,
See there? He be complaining, y'all. He be complaining about I don't like treat him like a stepchild. I got the intro going for him and everything. He ain't even paid no attention. That's okay. It's all right.
I mean, but I did hear you talking about Trump. He was there at Truist. He's been in the news quite a lot this week. Him and Biden was going head to head this week over executive privilege. So usually a sitting president has executive privilege, as in, they do certain things, and if they get questioned by Congress or whatever, it's almost like a regular citizen invoking the Fifth Amendment, as in, I don't have to talk on it. And so usually a sitting president have executive privileges, and it usually transfer over to former presidents as well. But in this situation, being that the Congress is investigating the January 6th insurrection, they was requesting Trump to provide some documentation, and he was, saying executive privilege. Well, the current sitting president can always override that when it comes down to anyone that's trying to use it, and especially former administration people. So that was a headline news, because it's very rare that a sitting president will block a former president in using such privilege. But it happened, and Trump wasn't happy about that. He had a whole lot of things to say and complain about Mr. Joe.
Let me ask you this, because I feel like everybody that surrounded Trump pretty much got away with murder, right? So many people did so many things, and I'm saying to myself, there's nothing that anybody. Only person that got it bad was Manafort, and what's the lawyer name that went to prison that came out
Yeah,
just telling everything.
yeah, I can't think of his name right now, but that attorney. But everybody else that got in trouble while he was in office, he basically pardoned.
He pardoned them, and then a lot of them didn't get nothing happened at all. And I was like, how is that
Right.
possible? Like, so like even like right now, they're sending subpoenas out to people, right? They're sending
Right.
subpoenas out, and they're like, I'm not going. I'm like, we get in trouble, we don't go to jury duty. So these people are being subpoenaed to come to court, and they just like, I'm not going. And there's nothing that can be done to them for that.
Well, Steve Bannon has been held in contempt of Congress, and so supposedly that's supposed to be some type of, you know, re- repercussions in that situation. But uh, I hate to say it, it's just sometimes it's not what they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And you know, since since the guy that they know is was and at that time the president, you they getting away with it now. Outside of politics alone, if this was a so happened to be a half black president, uh,
Yeah, yeah.
he wouldn't even made it let alone the whole term. He wouldn't even made it the first 100 days with some of the shenanigans that Trump got away with. But then on the political side, as a Democrat and with the Republicans in office, he wouldn't have got away with. I mean, perfect example. The Supreme Court. They had a whole year for the Supreme Court, and Obama put in somebody, and of course they blocked it. Mitch McConnell blocked it. It was within the same couple of months. I mean, within the same year of the election for Ruth Ginsburg. I want to say it was not even a good 2 3 months before the election, and they rushed that confirmation hearing so quickly that it was just a disgrace. I don't even think she was in the ground before they even had a nominee and was starting to move it. So, and the interesting thing about it, Trump, he actually said it was either Trump or Mitch McConnell who said elections have consequences. So basically saying since we won, we can do what we want to do. But when the Democrats try to do that,
Well, let me
it's a
ask you this.
problem.
At first, I want to say this. Speaking of Mitch McConnell, so he has thrown his support behind Herschel Walker, which I was like, okay. Before he was saying no way. Now it's like okay. So the one thing I can say about the Republicans, they stick together, wrong and wrong, not right because mostly wrong all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Wrong and wrong, they're going to stick together, and I find that that's where the Democrats struggle at. I feel like they struggle with trying to be so fair all the time and so good all the time, and it's to me it's a little bit detrimental to our um to our party.
Well, I mean, our party has several issues, and that is one. Not, I mean, we're not saying that the Democrat Party needs to be immoral and lose all they values, and that obviously the Republican Party that's supporting Trump, because we're gonna say all of them, because a lot of them have came out against him, but the majority still supports Trump. Uh, they've lost all their values because Trump has any values. Trump is all about himself. But outside of that, it's funny how you mentioned that because that was another news story that came out this week about in Texas, is saying how majority of the Latino population in Texas is voted red, and that's an
What?
interesting story, being that Trump came out swinging and kicking against Mexicans in particular, calling everyone, calling them racist, and I mean not racist, calling them murderers, rapists. And so I find it interesting that the Hispanic, or Latinos, Mexicans support Trump. But if you read the article makes sense. Uh, Democrats have been focusing so much on the diversity and vote for us because we support diversity, put things in Spanish, and saying that the Democrats support immigrants and their immigrants' rights. Well, a lot of people in Texas are not necessarily immigrants. Texas used to be Mexico. So you got a large Spanish population in Texas that are Texans, that there were Mexicans that became Texans that became Americans. And so um, they all believe, because Texas is a very gun friendly state. So obviously anybody that's saying they support the Second Amendment, anyone saying they protecting the Second Amendment and things of that nature, um, will usually vote with that party that's doing that, and that's right now that's the Republican Party. And then specifically in Texas, so the Mexicans that heritage is deeply rooted in Texas, they categorize themselves as white,
Mm,
Caucasians,
oh,
and so, but if we're going to go down that road, I believe that's why the census numbers are always where they are, where you notice the African American population has never grown over 13%.
Mm.
uh, throughout the entire nation. I don't care how many census do we go through. The African American nation population always teeter totter around 15, 13 to 15%, whereas the Caucasian population tends to always rise. Well, that's because Hispanics or Mexicans or Hispanics in general are labeled Caucasian. And if you look at like everybody has filled out an application before. It asks you, first it asks, are you Hispanic, Latino, or non-Hispanic Latino? And then, so if you're Hispanic, you're gonna put yes. You're gonna check Hispanic, and then that's ethnicity. And then it asks you for your race, and you notice it has black, it has Caucasian, African American, Asian Pacific, and then other. Well, some Hispanics will put other, but majority of them gonna select Caucasian,
Really?
and I feel like that's set up by design, because perfect example. I don't, I know I don't want to put their business out, but I've seen a birth certificate of a Hispanic person who on birth certificate is listed as Caucasian. Then it says Hispanic, yes or no. If you checks yes, and then it says origin of country, and then they put whatever Hispanic country that is. But the birth certificate has them listed as Caucasian,
Wow.
and so where ours either says black, Negro, colored, or African American.
Right.
And so I
You can't be
believe
you can't be a other. You got to be
right,
one of those. Yeah.
right. Well, depend on when you was born, obviously, because I believe mine says black. I believe now it may say African American. My mom's may say Negro,
Negro.
and then my grandma might say colored
Mhm.
or Negro.
Mhm.
So, but those are the only options. Whereas Hispanics, I promise you, if they check their birth certificate, it has them listed as a Caucasian. Then it say Hispanic, yes or no.
That's crazy. So,
Yeah.
so are you? So, and that goes back to that whole educating people about politics and how things work. And that's amazing that you brought that up. That's like a history. That's listen, y'all. I know this is like a history lesson that I'm learning because I would have never have thought that that would have happened. Because when I think about your heritage, like you embrace that, but if you think you are a Mexican white person, I don't quite I don't quite get that. It's like I'm saying I'm a black white folk. I mean, we say it
Yeah.
jokingly. We say listen,
Right.
we do say that jokingly, y'all, about certain things, but um it's like me saying I'm a black Puerto Rican or something. Black
Right.
I don't know, I don't get that.
Well, I mean, the article is posted on our Facebook page, Popcorn and Politics Podcast Facebook page. Um, but the article basically broke it down that a large majority of us. Perfect example. There's a border town called McAllen, Texas, and it's a border town, and they voted heavily uh, for Trump during this past presidential election. Heavily, like it was something like 70% Republican, uh, and so and they say that trend, if the Democrats continue to um, do the as they call racial or racial politics type, where they focusing on you know let's use black people as an example. Um, all black people issues aren't the same just because we're black,
Hmm.
and so they in Texas they are targeting the Hispanic community as if they're all the same, and that's not the case. And one of the big turnoffs for the Hispanic community in Texas is the the talks about immigration. Everybody that's Hispanic is not an immigrant, and particularly in Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, and California, because if you know your history, those were Mexico before they was part of the United States. And Texas was its own country before it was part of the United States. So you have a lot of Texans that's been there. You have a lot of Hispanics that's been in Texas that's never been in Mexico, never been to Mexico, day in their life outside of their territory that was once Mexico, that became Texas, that became part of the United States. So you coming to them talking about, immigrants' rights and this and that, that doesn't really, that's not going to sway me. Yeah, you might get, okay, yeah, you showing interest, but then you got the Republicans saying, you know, well, we support gun rights. Well, if I'm a native Texan, I'm gonna go with that. Oh, well, yeah, because I like toting my guns, and it's it was just more thing, securing the border. Just because I'm Hispanic don't mean I want open borders, especially if I've been in Texas all my life. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I feel like every if it's good to have a national platform, but it's obvious based on that article and the research they done in Texas. It's obvious that the Republicans have regional and geographic um, platforms to focus on areas that they would like to focus on, where the Democrats are really across the board are using a general platform to try to corral as many people as possible. You know, I think the Democratic Party would definitely have to start being, start listening to the AOCs and the progressive
Right.
leg of the party and the Bernie Sanders and get some use those ideas. But our party is being led by people that's the average age is 65 and up, and you know Obama brought in a whole coalition of 18 to 25-year-olds.
So listen, guys. I know you guys are hoping to hear from mayoral candidate Wade Anthony. There was a mix-up in the scheduling, so he's not going to be here. But he is running, and the vote is on Tuesday. So listen, I hadn't had a chance to talk to Mr. Anthony. I thought I would, but I guess apparently I dropped the ball. I'll take responsibility for that. Because I am super busy and maybe I missed some correspondence in the email. But get out to vote, vote whichever way your heart, so choose. But vote, whatever you do, just vote. And so the election is this coming Tuesday, November 2nd. I can't believe it's time to vote again. Time
Yeah,
has flown. I cannot believe that. But it's that time again. So look at your local officials and see who's running, who's up for re-election, who's running for the first time out. Go out, cast your vote. If you see any kind of disparities at the voting polls, be sure to report them. That's very important here in Georgia, because there's a lot going on right now, and we expect these races to get really rough next year. So whatever
right.
you see now, if you see something, say something. And even if it's something small, if you see something, say something at the voting polls. That's very important. Be careful because there's some new laws out this year. So be careful not to hand out water, in the line because we don't want y'all to go to jail. Okay, so
Yeah,
abide by the laws because we got some stupid laws here in Georgia when it comes to voting and standing in line. The dumbest thing I ever heard in my life, but it's cold, so you shouldn't be too hot. So, but just in case, if you need to take a chair, sit in line, and bring Derek. Last year was it last year? I think it was last year. We had to go vote, and we were going through the same kind of nonsense. Well, when I got to the voting polls, my husband and I, people had 5-gallon jugs of water in the line. So we walked up, right? And I'm looking, I was like, they mean not to go, they mean not to get go thirsty. I'm talking about gallons of water. I'm talking about lugging them there in the line.
yeah.
And I'm
Well, that's
thinking,
because that's a known voter suppression tactic by keeping the lines long, and and it always happened in low income minority neighborhoods. Uh, I've never heard of an affluent neighborhood that has three machines and only two of them are working.
mm,
First of all, they only have three machines, and then only two of them are working. So I and then just during my time on an election campaign last year, I've heard stories where you know machines are out for 4 hours. A technician, take a technician that long to show up, and then when the technician show up, it's just the fact that the machine wasn't plugged in.
mm-hmm,
And so now we're 4 hours behind, and then there's no no way of making up that time unless unless they extend the hours. Well, that has to come through a court order. So that's why you see organizations like the NAACP, now Stacey Abrams' organization, Fair Fight,
Right.
and other organizations throughout the country. That's why they're always suing and having all these legal battles on election day, because if they wouldn't, sorry, 4 hours behind, we still have to close them doors at 7 o'clock, and that's not right, nor is it fair. And so, election day, people fail to realize that there are elections every year. There's no such thing as an off year. Every year, somebody somewhere is being elected for an office. So this year is mostly the municipals. Next year it'll be the midterm elections. So it'll be mostly congressional seats, where you have the House of Representatives, you have the Senate, the senators, and then, like I say, every year you're gonna have some type of state or local election. So uh, for those who say I vote and I only vote for the president, you're missing out on a lot. You have district attorney, you have judges, you have school board, the ones who want masks, the ones who don't want masks.
Mm-hmm.
That's handled by your school board. Joe Biden or Donald Trump don't control that. That's handled by your school board. Um, those who get upset because they feel like the judge is unfair, that's an elected. Most likely that judge is elected. Federal judges are appointed, but if it's not if it's just a regular felony case, that's a state case, that's an elected official. And just like he got voted in, you can vote him out. And so I try to tell people that, all the time, that your vote matter more and more on a local level than anything, because you can see that change. People win these elections by less than, I done seen people win by 10 votes.
Wow. Wow.
So those are real close margins. Um, the local election, they made, I think last year, for the city council race in Decula, Georgia, I think only 91 people voted.
What?
It was less than 100
Wow.
totality people
Wow.
voted. So so and it was between an incumbent and someone running. So that tells you how close that race was.
Wow. It's so
91.
crazy because you would think that with all the things you hear every day. Well, I guess if you don't listen to the news like we listen to it, you don't know what's going on in the world of politics. But when you start to think about the things that you're missing in your communities and the things that your family are missing, you might want to think about, who do I need to vote for, or do I need to vote at all? And the answer will be yes, you need to vote, because that's where it becomes important for you. Now, I always say this, Derek, and I don't know, you can share your thoughts with me on this, but I always say that, I'm gonna vote along the party line, um that supports my family and my community, right? And so, and I have to always go back to healthcare, because that's always one that baffles me, right? I don't have Obamacare, and you really do, because it's the Affordable Healthcare Act. I guess I can't really wrap my head around not voting for the party that has your best interest at heart. And if you're not a part of that 1%, 9 times out of 10, you fall in that 99%, where you probably need you need all of the things that I need. So, and you still vote the other way, that just baffles me. Let me ask you this real quick, because I know you more versed in politics than I am. I just happen to, I like to fight. Derek knows the information. I just like to fight. Um, so Keisha Lance Bottom has decided not to run. Kasim Reed is saying, I'm gonna run again, and some people aren't happy about that. Even down to the NAACP, the local one, just not happy about that. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, well, one, I'm very disappointed that Mayor Bottoms decided not to run for reelection. But then I can also understand, due to, this past term has been riddled with threats, and just, it's been tough to be a mayor of Atlanta during this current time frame. But as far as Kasim Reed, I I'm really new when it come down to Atlanta, when it come to that. So I'm really not too familiar with his administration. I do know that uh, the comments that came from the Atlanta NAACP uh, basically got that president in trouble. The national president sent the order like cease to desist and basically demanded that he retract his statement, which I don't think he did. So I'm interested to see how that will pan out because usually, non-political organization like the NAACP, they tend to stay out of that. And but I can see both sides as far as because he did not endorse anyone. He said vote for anyone other than Kasim Reed. The National takes that as him endorsing everyone else but Kasim Reed. So um, I think it comes down to a matter of interpretation. And I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes a legal dispute amongst the national and the Atlanta NAACP because the local and the Atlanta branch can say, well, I didn't endorse anyone. But I mean, he had a point because if Kasim Reed was a white candidate, would he receive the same pushback that he's getting from the national, NAACP. But there's a lot of politics amongst that because Kasim Reed is a lifetime member of the NAACP, and so that's it's almost like if you're part of a fraternity or sorority, and then they publicly attack each other, and that's that can pose a problem for the organization.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm interested to see how it comes out. I do know that this election has been uh, very a lot of mudslinging has been going on between
Hmm.
Kasim Reed, Felicia Moore, Antonio Brown. Like it's getting very brutal with the ads and so I'm just interested to see who the voters will end up ultimately supporting.
I like you said you was sad to see you was kind of disappointed that Keisha was not gonna run again. But their public office can be rough. Like being in politics, what I've learned from following you, because Derek has run for several offices, being in this space can be extremely rough, y'all. And when I tell you, it's probably even worse when you get elected because now you are under scrutiny all the time by the people that you are out there trying to fight for. You get your life threatened. I was in a situation recently, and I was in the room. I was in the room in a situation recently. An elected official, somebody threatened their life. They had to be moved to a. I thought I was on. It was like on being on the set of a TV show. They had to be moved to a secure location, and I'm listening to the person make the call, and it's like, yeah, we got this. It was an elected official. We got this person. We need a room. Blah blah blah. It was crazy, and I'm sitting there going,
Mhm.
holy crap! Like this is how they go. This is how this go for real. I was in the room one day with an FBI employee, right? No lie. Sitting in the room, someone called the phone number of someone in that room. She picked up the phone. She called the FBI. Gave them the number. They ran the number. I'm sitting there going,
Hmm.
it was crazy, y'all. But
Yeah.
but I said all that to say, this is not a game. Like public officials in their lives, it's not a game. And so you see them out there saying, "Vote for me, vote for me." And I had to ask myself, why? Why would you put yourself and your family through that? For most of the time, for people to put you in the chair, and then they beat your back down. Right?
Right.
You said you was going to do this. You said you was going to do that. And honestly, Derek, you probably know better than me that you can say all the things you want to say, but unless you get the support once you get in those seats, a lot of times your hands are almost tied. A lot of times.
Right. And it's sad the environment that we're in. Uh, and I kid you not. So I mean, I'm originally from Texas. My son moved to Texas when he was 10 years old. So he's learning about Georgia. Outside of the only thing before we moved to Georgia, he knew about Georgia was the civil rights movement. Civil rights movement and Martin Luther King. So that put that in perspective. So when I told my son that I was running for county commissioner, he had a look on his face, and I was like, "Are you okay?" And he was like, "Just don't get assassinated."
Mm, wow.
And he was serious. It wasn't like, no, hey, we're joking around. He was like, just don't get assassinated, you know. And I understood where he was coming from, because again, all he knew about Georgia was civil rights movement, Martin Luther King. A black man standing up for a community got assassinated, and so uh, and I thought that was interesting. And throughout that course, you get, I did receive my share of hate mail, uh, but then I mean, obviously, I wasn't in a situation, or it wasn't as bad as it is now. Oddly enough, you have school board members that are in fear of their life now. School board members are getting threats, and all this is stemming over a mask. Because they saying that in order to protect us and everyone else, you have to wear a mask, and people are complaining, talking about it's against their rights and this and this and that. And I heard a reporter say on the news, and last year in the height of COVID, that the reason why COVID is so rampant in the U.S., and why the U.S. cannot do what other countries did, like Italy, is because in the U.S. we have this thing called rights. Because Italy shut it down. They shut down the entire country. You know, uh, but not saying that people in other countries don't have rights, but we all know that America is built on I have my rights, don't infringe upon my rights. And so, and that's totally obvious. Like, no one is telling you that. I mean, we're not taking away your rights by asking you or demanding you wear a mask. It's no difference than demanding you to wear a seatbelt in a car, demanding you to have insurance on your car. It's like that's no different. A mask. But everybody has all these different studies that show that wearing a mask could, cause you to be sick. And my response to that is, I can find a study on anything that I want to find a study on. Matter of fact, and then if I can't find the study, I can create the study. So, you know, uh, being an elected official or running for office in this time is very challenging if you're not a supporter of Trump. I mean, Trump didn't start it, but Trump exported it. So you know, it's definitely tough, and it has never been this challenging to be a school board member.
Right.
School board is usually like a behind, like a low level elected official where you you know, get to ease by, make some, do the school board stuff, but you never, unless it's something made, a controversy or something like that. But I can't remember. I mean, I'm very young. I can't remember in my youth of ever seeing a school or hearing about a school board member in fear of their life due to threats, or ever hearing about a school board member, the threats being so bad that the president has to address it. Like Joe Biden had to ask the FBI to investigate school board member threats. Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
You
That's,
know,
we just had a meeting just recently for the school board, and it seemed like it started out pretty good here in Gwinnett County, and the next thing you know, they had to shut it down again, all because of the mask. And I think that I understand what people saying about their rights, right? But I can't understand how you can look around and see so many people who have lost their lives and so many families who have been torn apart because of COVID and say it's not real. I get it. Nobody listen. Nobody gets it more than I do, right? And I don't want to bring this up again, but I lost my mom to COVID, and we were masked up all the time. Like we walked with gloves. It was crazy. I felt crazy walking with gloves in my pocket everywhere I went, and my mom still got it, and she never left the house, Derek. So that means we brought it in the house with
right,
all of the precautions that we took. Hand sanitizer. When I tell you hand sanitizers and sprays and lights, everything we could find, wiping it, and my mom still got it. It came in my house still. So I honestly don't get like, oh, mask causes problems. Well, COVID causes dead. How about that? I'm just saying
right.
it
You
causes
know,
dead.
it's how many more articles we have to see where an anti-mask individual end up dying from COVID, and then the family say, well, before he died, he stated that he or she regret, or he or she now advocate. Like, how many articles you have to say that? Everybody, oh, that's propaganda. Okay, it may be propaganda, but they are no longer here. That's a fact.
That's fact.
So whether they said on their deathbed, I wish I would have had a mask, or I wish I got the vaccine, whether they said that or not, the fact that they died from something they said that wasn't true or didn't exist, I mean, I think that will open my eyes, you know. But we're in this environment now where fake news is a word now, or is a term, fake news. Um,
We
you
know who made
know,
that term famous.
well, you got if it wasn't Trump, it was Kellyanne. I think Kellyanne said alternative facts.
Oh,
That was her term. But it was definitely that administration where the truth doesn't matter.
mm.
And that's disturbing because whether you was red or blue, the truth matter at some point. You know, uh, Bill Clinton got impeached behind lying, perjury. That's really what he got impeached for. Perjury. He didn't get impeached for anything else but them lying. I mean, him lying about really a personal matter. But that goes to show you how politics is, because the Republican Party will lynch Bill Clinton, over a personal matter that should have been handled between him and his wife. But they will turn a blind eye to the insurrection of Donald Trump.
With
You know
people
that
that died and people died. Let's
Yeah,
not forget that part. Let's not
yeah, a
forget that
police
part.
officer, so Donald Trump's supposed to be law and order and support the blue, but a police officer got killed during the insurrection. So where's the support of blue then? So it's until this country gets to a place where they can really see beyond red and blue and see that we're all human and we all are Americans, then it's gonna forever be a fight. And right now, um, it seems like hatred is. I ain't gonna say it seems like it's winning, because obviously Trump lost. But although Trump lost, the Republican Party from the House and the Senate really didn't take too many L's this
Mm.
past. The Senate lost a couple of seats. That's how it got. That's how we got the 50-50 tie with the vice president being the tiebreaker. The House, they never had majority. I mean, they not never, but they did not have majority of the House. So they didn't regain majority of the House. But if you look at all the state level seats, the state houses and the state senates, that's still mostly throughout the country. That's still mostly being ran by Republicans. And then you go further down, particularly in Georgia, most of the municipalities are ran by nonpartisan Republicans. So, I mean, for the president to say that was tampering, in particular Georgia, he said that there was voter fraud in the election in Georgia. So how come Kelly Loeffler didn't win?
Mm. Mm.
How come David Perdue didn't win?
But
Because you can't make me believe that that we will cheat on Joe Biden, but we didn't, like, why we didn't go down like, come on now. Or how come the Republicans that won their seats, like, it should have been a blue across it should have been a blue wave across all the elections. If like, we're not going to cherry pick, like, who does that? We're not going to screw up uh the president, but we're going to still elect, you know the Republican whatever that's running, because Republicans throughout the country did not lose as much as you know one would thought.
so speaking of David Perdue, I don't know if you saw this news story last week, but it seems like he may be running against Kemp, and that he and Trump are pretty good friends. And so the story is, he's been in talks, so he's not trying to go after Warnock seat anymore. I guess he'll lead it up to Kelly Loeffler, and but now he wants to go after the governor's house. And I was like, wow. But I don't know if you remember, I talked about this on the Good Morning Gwinnett show, where Trump was up over in Perry, Georgia, I think it was, and he's like, he hopes Stacey Abrams win. And I was like, what? Did I just mishear what I just heard?
Trump
But
wants anybody but Brian Kemp.
yeah,
And the
yeah.
same thing with the Secretary of State. He wants anybody but Rackensburg
Mm-hmm.
because he's trying to prove a point. He's trying to prove a point that he still has power and authority over the Republican Party and the Republican electorate. So if he's able to pull that off, then he's still a force. But if Trump doesn't pull off any major victories in 22, I believe Trump will this will be his final, as they say, nail in the coffin. So I'm hoping that we don't see a resurrection of Trump and that he just sail away and float away into the abyss and hopefully we can see that. But uh, the Democratic Party has to have a game plan though. You can't Your game plan can't just simply be anti-Trump. We need solutions. We need as a black person, there needs we need solutions. As a as in everybody has what they're looking for, and the government especially the Democrats, they need to be able to provide some of these solutions if you want to keep these supporters, because outside of Hispanics and Latinos, you have a large black population that support Trump.
Yeah, really, you really do, and it's so crazy. I can tell you this: he's not going nowhere, though, Derek. I hate to say it because now Trump media is doing really well. I don't know if you
Yeah,
heard about
yeah.
that, but Trump media, I'm like, what the? But he said that. He said that when he was in office, he wanted to control his own media, and so Trump media is in full swing. The stocks went off the charts. They said last week, and I was like, Lord have mercy. Now he's gonna have some airways for real all the time, where he can just be up all night tweeting and oh my god, just slinging trash. But I don't know if he's ever gonna go away, and it's so crazy because um now he's talking about running for reelection. Now the thing is, if he does launch Trump media like I think is going to be launched, the rest of the wonder what's going to happen to like Twitter and Facebook and all these places that normally you would go there and he would be spreading his news, but now you got this other private network, and I wonder how that's going to play out when it comes to regulations. Is it going to be regulated because it's his own private entity? Can they shut it down because it's a business? I wonder how that's going to work. That's going to be interesting
Well, we're supposed to be a capitalist nation, so
with freedom of speech.
freedom of speech. So I don't think we will the country can necessarily shut it down, because then that would be considered communism at that point, because that's what they do in communist nations like China and Cuba. So they regulate the flow of media and free speech. So but it will be interesting. I think it will be interesting. I foresee Trump as the businessman. I foresee him building that platform large enough and then probably selling it to Fox News or somebody,
Mm.
some other conservative conglomerate that's gonna you know make money, and so he gonna make his money off of, because that's all Trump is about at this point, is money. All that money that he raised to fight for, fight against the election fraud. Where's that money going to? Where's
Mm.
that money at? That
Mm-hmm.
money is going to this Trump media.
Yep.
You know, all that, I mean, he could have paid the bill for everybody on January 6th. On top of that, he could have issued a pardon if he really cared about the people that in January 6th. But Trump. I feel like he's not feel like he is self-centered. He's a narcissist, and so uh, at the end of the day, it's all about him and and fattening his pocket. Um, and so I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we'll probably never see his taxes again. But if we see his taxes for 2021, I wouldn't be surprised if he made more money than he's ever made in his life.
And he's gonna
Uh,
make even more because I can tell you right now, journalists, when Trump media actually launches and it's open to the public to see, journalists like you and myself and the rest of us are gonna be able to look and like, let's see what he's saying today. It's gonna happen. And at
yeah,
the end of the day, platforms like that, they want eyeballs. So
right,
listen, if they can get our eyeballs and capitalize on that, that's what they're gonna do. And here's the thing: we want the news, so we got to go look at it. We got to go look for it. And
right.
so
And plus his method is shock and awe.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, shock and awe. If I can
yeah.
say the The worst thing to make you come read my article. He said that he's very non political correct. You, you
Right.
you know, he says what comes to his mind, um, and that can be lethal,
Yeah.
problematic to say the least. So it's gonna be interesting. I'm looking forward to this next coming in. But as you said, elections are coming up across the country now. Just about every state in the union, every state in the country has an election coming up this Tuesday, um, and important elections. Some areas got some constitutional amendments to vote on. Some has different splashes or please vote. If you're registered to vote, please vote in this election. Please know that every election matter, and not just the presidential election. Every election matter, and this Tuesday is just as important as last November Tuesday.
And also, if you are a poll worker at the polls, if you are feel like your life is in danger in any kind of way, please don't hesitate to call your local authorities to make sure that you're safe. Because just like Derek and Luke talked about earlier, people are nuts right now. They feel like they can threaten poll workers, kidnap poll workers, hurt poll workers, and you're out there doing your civic duty to make sure that we have people at the polls that the polls are fair. So if you feel at any time that your life is in danger, please do not wait. Call your local authorities to make sure that you get them out there so nothing happens to you. Because we got a lot of crazy people out there, y'all. And they don't think they're crazy, but they're nuts. And we know they are. We talked to Derek sent me a audio last week. Who was it, Derek? And the person was just it was
Uh,
horrible.
well, well, it was a Georgia State Representative, uh, Donna McLeod. She got a voicemail, basically threatening her and the entire Democratic caucus of the Georgia House of Representatives. So it's serious out there.
And I mean, it was horrific, y'all, to the point where he was like, "Kill them all, and I'm gonna go have a steak dinner." That's crazy. And he probably don't think he's crazy, but he's nuts. But there are a lot of crazy people out there. So if you are at the poll working, trying to make sure that we have a fair election across the United States, be sure if you feel like your life is in danger, be sure to call your local authorities and let them know. Do not go to your car alone if you don't have to. Just be careful. Watch your surroundings. Don't leave your purses and bags down. Just be very careful because we are living in a strange state, as Derek said earlier, of affairs right now when it comes to our political system. And we want to make sure that while you're out there trying to do your civic duty, we want to make sure that you stay safe. So be sure to do that. Well,
Yeah,
Derek, that is the end of our show. Sorry we didn't
already.
have our guest on, but we got more guests coming up. So I won't drop the ball next time, y'all. I've dropped the ball, and it's okay because I do that occasionally. But this was a great show, I must say, and I'm not saying it because Derek and I hosted. I just felt like it was a great show. So although
Yeah.
we didn't have a guest, and we will have one next week. We hope that we gave you some things to think about until we meet up again next Sunday. So, listen, be sure to follow us on all of the social platforms. Derek, you set them up. I don't even know what they are. Go ahead. What are they?
So popcorn and politics on Facebook, as well as political popcorn on Instagram. Um, but you can also reach out, get to our Instagram page through our Facebook page, and also on our website is popcornandpolitics.com. On our social medias, we're going to be posting information, different news articles across the country. We're going to have interviews with elected and candidates across the country. I'm excited about some of the ones that we have lined up in the coming weeks throughout the country. So I'm excited.
All right. Listen, guys, thank you for joining us. You spent the last 49 minutes with us, and we love and appreciate you for that. We'll be back again next Sunday at 1 p.m. live. So be sure to check us out and tell all your friends about the show. If you like politics, go to popcornandpolitics.com. Go to that page. If you want to be a guest on the show, there's a guest tab there. Fill that information out, and we'll talk back to you and see if we can get you on the show. We want to hear from you too. Like if you have an opinion about your local government officials and you want to come on and talk about it, listen, come on and talk about it. We also want to make sure that we bring on the candidates that are running in your area as well to talk to them about what they're planning on doing for you. Why should they get your vote? So we're excited about that. Be sure to go out and vote this Tuesday. Go to vote. Go to vote. Get out and vote. All right, Derek, thanks again for joining me. We'll be back again next Sunday. Until next time, people. Until next time. Y'all make it a great day. Bye now.
Bye.
You've been listening to Popcorn in Politics. What's the Real Deal? Hosted by Audrey Bell Kearney and Derek J. Wilson. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your family and friends. To support the show, visit us on the web at www.popcorninpolitics.com. Connect with us on Facebook at Progressive Popcorn and on Instagram at Popcorn Politics Podcast.